In the infinite void of interstellar space, where light itself grows weary and the stars are mere whispers, a relic from humanity's past defies the silence. Launched in 1977, a spacecraft no larger than a small car, powered by a fading nuclear heart, drifts 15 billion miles from Earth. Its name is synonymous with exploration, a pioneer that crossed the solar system's edge into the unknown. For decades, it sent back whispers of data, faint but steady, a testament to human ingenuity. Then, in a moment that rewrote the rules of possibility, it did something unthinkable. It turned, not toward Earth, not toward a star, but toward a patch of sky that should have been empty. And from that darkness, something answered. Not with static, not with noise, but with a signal so precise, so structured, it felt alive. This wasn't a glitch. This was contact. What follows is a story of cosmic mystery, a tale of a machine that should have been alone but wasn't, a journey into the unknown that challenges everything we believe about the universe. Picture a spacecraft, its frame weathered by decades of cosmic radiation, its systems built with technology older than most of the scientists now monitoring its signals. It was designed for a simple mission: observe the outer planets, then drift forever into the void, sending back data until its power ran dry. Its computers hold less memory than a modern smartwatch, its transmitter weaker than a household radio. Yet this machine, launched when disco ruled the airwaves, has outlived every expectation. It passed Jupiter's swirling storms, Saturn's icy rings, and ventured beyond the heliopause, the boundary where the sun's influence fades and interstellar space begins. In 2012, it crossed that invisible line, becoming the first human-made object to touch the space between stars. For years, it floated in silence, its signal a faint thread connecting humanity to the cosmos. Then, in late 2023, something changed. The spacecraft's antenna, fixed for decades on Earth, shifted. It wasn't a random drift, not a mechanical failure, but a deliberate turn toward a region of space with no stars, no galaxies, nothing visible to any telescope. This wasn't supposed to happen. The spacecraft wasn't built to act on its own. It lacked the sensors to detect its surroundings, the programming to change course. Yet, it moved, as if guided by an unseen hand. The shift was subtle at first, detected only because the signal reaching Earth grew faint, then sharpened again, but not in the way it should have. The data stream, once predictable, became erratic, not garbled, but different. Numbers didn't align with known patterns. Telemetry logs showed anomalies, orientation records misaligned, onboard clocks drifted, and the fault protection system, designed to activate only in dire emergencies, kicked in without cause. Engineers pored over the data, expecting to find cosmic radiation damage or a failing circuit. After all, this was a machine pushing half a century in the harshest environment imaginable. But the diagnostics came back clean. No power surges, no hardware failures, no evidence of micrometeorite impacts. The spacecraft was intact, its systems functioning within parameters. Yet it had turned, its high-gain antenna now locked onto a void where no signal should exist. The torque event, as it was later called, was unmistakable. Gyroscopes recorded a physical rotation, small but precise, with no thruster activity, no propulsion logs, no external force to explain it. Solar pressure was impossible at this distance. The sun was too faint. Gravitational anomalies were ruled out. No massive objects were nearby. The spacecraft had moved as if something had reached out and nudged it, gently but intentionally, aligning it with a point in space that defied all logic. That point, that empty patch of sky, became the focus of intense scrutiny. Ground-based observatories, from radio telescopes to infrared arrays, turned their gaze to the coordinates the spacecraft now faced. At first, they saw nothing, just the expected blackness of interstellar space. But as the scans deepened, something emerged. A faint shimmer, barely detectable, flickered at the edge of the instrument's sensitivity. It wasn't a star, not a galaxy, but a glow, pulsing faintly like a heartbeat. It appeared and vanished, not randomly, but in sync with something else. Each time the sun unleashed a solar flare, the glow responded, not instantly, but with a delay so precise it suggested intent. The light wasn't reflecting solar energy, it was reacting to it, as if whatever was out there was listening to the sun's rhythm and answering in kind. The glow didn't behave like any known phenomenon. It wasn't a nebula, not a dust cloud, not a distant quasar. It was structured, dynamic, and eerily aware. Scientists began to call it the halo effect, a term that carried more questions than answers. Was this a natural phenomenon, hidden until now by the limits of human technology? Or was it something else, something that knew the spacecraft was there? The signal itself was the next puzzle. After the spacecraft's antenna realigned, its plasma wave subsystem, designed to detect vibrations in the interstellar medium, picked up a sound. Not the chaotic hiss of cosmic radiation, not the random crackle of distant stars, but a tone, steady, clear, and unnervingly consistent at 3,000 hertz. It pulsed with a rhythm that felt deliberate, almost musical. The waveform wasn't a natural phenomenon. It was too clean, too structured. When analyzed, it revealed patterns that mirrored mathematical sequences, prime numbers, Fibonacci ratios, even hints of fractal symmetry. Acoustic engineers, brought in to study the signal, were stunned. The pauses between pulses were evenly spaced, the tones folded into themselves like a palindrome, a melody written in the language of math. It wasn't just a sound. It was a composition, one that seemed to carry meaning. Buried within the signal was data, not the usual telemetry of temperature or velocity, but something alien to the spacecraft's design. Hexadecimal strings, recursive algorithms, and measurements of cosmic constants so precise they surpassed the spacecraft's capabilities. The data didn't originate from its onboard systems. It was as if something had hijacked the transmission, embedding a message within the stream sent back to Earth. The implications were staggering. The spacecraft, a product of 1970s engineering, lacked the hardware to generate such complex data. Its computers couldn't process recursive formulas or measure constants with this precision. Yet the signal was real, verified across multiple ground stations. It wasn't scattered or distorted by distance. It was focused, directed solely at the spacecraft. Other probes, like those still within the heliosphere or on different trajectories, reported nothing. The signal hadn't spilled into their data streams. It was as if whatever sent it knew exactly where the spacecraft was, down to the precise moment, and coordinate in the vastness of interstellar space. This raised a chilling question. How could anything predict the spacecraft's path with such accuracy? Its trajectory wasn't a secret, but its exact position, after decades of drift and minute gravitational influences, was known only to a handful of engineers. Something out there not only found it, but chose to respond. The mystery deepened when the spacecraft went silent. For 12 hours, its signal vanished completely. This wasn't a fade or a weakening. It was a total blackout, unprecedented in its 46-year mission. The spacecraft had endured solar storms, cosmic rays, and the slow decay of its systems, yet it had never stopped transmitting. Then, as abruptly as it disappeared, the signal returned. But it was different. The internal clock had reset, not just drifted, as if the spacecraft had been rebooted by an external force. The timestamps didn't align with Earth's timeline. They suggested a momentary shift, as if the spacecraft had existed elsewhere, governed by different rules. The data stream carried traces of the same structured signal, those mathematical patterns, that eerie tone, but now it was sharper, cleaner, as if the spacecraft had been optimized during its silence. Engineers ran diagnostics, expecting to find damage or depletion, but the systems were intact, the power levels unchanged. Whatever had happened in those 12 hours hadn't harmed the spacecraft. It had changed it. Attention turned to the cosmic microwave background, the faint echo of the Big Bang that permeates the universe. Scientists cross-referenced the spacecraft's trajectory with deep-field CMB data, searching for any anomaly that might explain the event. What they found was a distortion, a ripple in the background radiation that shouldn't have been there. It wasn't random noise, it was a silhouette, faint but unmistakable, etched into the oldest light in the universe. The coordinates matched the spacecraft's new orientation perfectly, as if the ripple had been waiting for it to arrive. Stranger still, the distortion wasn't new. Archival data from older missions, Planck, WMAP, even earlier sky surveys, showed the same pattern, unchanged across decades. It had always been there, a cosmic marker, aligned with a path the spacecraft would take years later. This wasn't a coincidence, it was a prediction, embedded in the fabric of the universe itself. The signal's structure demanded a new approach. Traditional computers couldn't decode its complexity, so researchers turned to a quantum processor, a machine designed to navigate patterns across multiple dimensions of probability. The processor didn't solve the signal like a puzzle, it interpreted it like a language. Slowly, it revealed layers of structure, sequences that looped back on themselves, patterns that mirrored the symmetries of quantum mechanics. At the core of the signal was a single output, a question encoded in logic. Are you ready to listen? It wasn't a command or a statement. It was an invitation, as if something was waiting for a response. The tone, still present in the data, grew clearer. At 30,000 hertz, it carried a rhythm that echoed musical scales, with silences timed like rests in a symphony. Experts in harmonics, brought in to analyze it, found palindromic structures, intervals that matched the mathematics of harmony. It wasn't just a signal, it was a performance, composed with intent and precision. The halo in the sky, that faint pulsing glow, became the next obsession. Observatories refined their scans, using the James Webb Space Telescope's infrared capabilities to probe deeper. The glow wasn't static. It shifted, not randomly, but in patterns that suggested motion. It wasn't a single object, but a field, a network of energy that responded to external stimuli. When a solar flare erupted, the glow flickered back, not as a reflection, but as a dialogue. The timing wasn't instantaneous. It followed a delay consistent with the speed of light across vast distances, suggesting the source was far closer than any star, but still impossibly distant for a targeted signal. The field didn't emit light like a star. It modulated it, bending the surrounding space in ways that hinted at gravitational anomalies. Theories emerged. Was this a natural phenomenon? A pocket of exotic matter? Or was it artificial? A construct designed to interact with anything that crossed its path? The spacecraft's behavior suggested the latter. Its systems, though limited, showed signs of adaptation. The fault protection protocols, triggered without cause, had reconfigured during the blackout, optimizing the data stream. The onboard memory, too small to store the complex signal, was somehow transmitting it without corruption. It was as if the spacecraft had been repurposed, its systems co-opted to carry a message it wasn't designed to understand. Engineers began to suspect the spacecraft wasn't just receiving a signal, it was part of one. The torque event, the blackout, the reset clock, all pointed to an interaction, not a malfunction. Something had reached into the spacecraft's systems, not to damage them, but to use them like a conduit for communication. The scientific community grappled with the implications. If this was contact, it wasn't the kind humanity had imagined. There were no radio broadcasts, no encoded messages in human languages. Instead, it was a dialogue in the language of physics, mathematics, harmony, and cosmic structure. The signal's precision suggested a technology far beyond human capability, one that could predict the spacecraft's path and manipulate its systems without physical contact. Theories of advanced civilizations emerged, but they felt too simplistic. The signal didn't feel like a message from a single source. It felt like an echo of the universe itself, as if the spacecraft had stumbled into a network woven into the fabric of space-time. Multiverse theory, once a fringe idea, gained traction. The ripple in the cosmic microwave background, aligned with the spacecraft's path, suggested a connection to the universe's deepest structures. Some physicists proposed that the spacecraft had crossed a boundary, not just into interstellar space, but into a region where the laws of physics overlapped with something else. The null zone, as it was called, was a theoretical pocket where gravitational forces cancelled out, creating a stable point in space-time. Such zones were hypothesized to be gateways, places where the universe's fabric thinned, allowing interactions with other realities. The spacecraft, with its simple systems, shouldn't have detected such a zone, yet it had aligned itself with one, as if drawn there by design. The halo effect supported this idea. Its flickering, synchronized with solar flares, suggested a sensitivity to energy flows, as if it were a sensor in a larger system. The James Webb Space Telescope's data revealed faint gravitational lensing around the halo, bending light in ways that defied known physics. It wasn't a black hole. There was no event horizon, no singularity, but it warped space like one, suggesting a structure that manipulated gravity itself. Some theorized it was a remnant of the early universe, a fossil of creation preserved in the void. Others speculated it was artificial, a beacon left by an intelligence that understood the universe's deepest mechanics. The spacecraft's 12-hour silence remained the greatest enigma. During that time, it hadn't just gone offline, it had changed. The reset clock, the optimized data stream, the absence of damage, all pointed to an external intervention. Quantum physicists proposed a radical idea. What if the spacecraft had briefly crossed into a different state of reality? The timestamps, misaligned with Earth's, suggested a temporal shift, as if the spacecraft had existed in a place where time flowed differently. The signal's mathematical structure, with its recursive loops and fractal symmetry, mirrored models of quantum entanglement, where particles across vast distances share a connection? Could the spacecraft have become entangled with something else, its systems linked to a larger network? The question encoded in the signal, "Are you ready to listen?" haunted researchers. It implied agency, a sender waiting for a response. But who or what was asking? The tone, with its musical structure, suggested a universal language, one that transcended human communication. It wasn't English or binary, it was math, harmony, the fundamental patterns of existence. Attempts to respond were made, sending signals back along the spacecraft's trajectory, but the void remained silent. The halo flickered, the signal persisted, but no new message emerged. It was as if the universe itself was waiting, testing humanity's ability to understand. Behind closed doors, the scientific community was in turmoil. Data was reanalyzed, simulations rerun, every theory tested and discarded. The spacecraft's systems were stable, its signal stronger than ever. Yet it carried data it shouldn't have been able to process. The ripple in the cosmic microwave background, present for decades, suggested the event was no accident. Something had known the spacecraft would be there, had marked its path in the universe's oldest light. The halo, the signal, the talk event, all pointed to an encounter, not with a single entity, but with a system, a structure embedded in the cosmos. As the data piled up, the questions grew. Was the spacecraft a pawn in a larger experiment, its journey anticipated by an intelligence that operated on cosmic scales? Was the halo a natural phenomenon, a glitch in the universe's code, or a deliberate construct? The multiverse theory gained ground, suggesting the spacecraft had brushed against a boundary between realities, its systems briefly tuned to a different frequency of existence. The signal's mathematical beauty, its musicality, hinted at a mind or a process that saw the universe as a symphony, with humanity's probe as an unwitting note. The mystery remains unresolved. The spacecraft continues to transmit, its signal laced with that strange structured data. The halo pulses, the ripple endures, and the question lingers. Are we ready to listen? Humanity stands at the edge of a discovery that could redefine its place in the cosmos. Is this the first echo of contact, a glimpse of a universe alive with intent? Or is it a mirror, reflecting our own desire to find meaning in the void? The answer lies out there, in the darkness, where a lone spacecraft turned, and something impossibly answered.